Hi, I'm Adam Acquistapace with Acquistapaces. In celebration of America's 250th anniversary, we're going to do a three-part series on American wine, spirits, and beer. Now come join us. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to wine and the wine in the history of the United States. But this is the thing, wine predates America by a long way. But you know what? We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where we're starting when the founding fathers and the founding of the United States. So we're going to start around 1776. Thomas Jefferson was one of the most important wine people in the country, and he got together with the Mazzei family of Italy. He brought cuttings over, and so there was a lot of people, and he was one of the first fine wine enophiles, and he had this vision for wine in America. Now, he didn't necessarily think about it over there in California, but so right around the same time we had the missionaries, the Spanish missionaries who came and they planted vineyards and that they had grapes over there. Look, we grow grapes all over the country, and there's lots of great places where grapes can be grown. Now, one of the other great places that we've grown grapes is actually in Missouri, and that's not something that people really even think about. The great state of Missouri. Actually, the first appellation in America is in Missouri. Number 2 is before Napa Valley in California. So it's a really interesting piece of information over there. But so as we fast forward a little bit, we have native grapes, we have grapes that they brought over from Europe, which is called Vitis vinifera. There was this thing in the 1860s, there was this grape louse in Europe that was called phylloxera that devastated all of the vineyards in Europe. But the rootstock that was in America was resistant to this. And so almost, if you don't know this, almost all of the vineyards in the world, but definitely in Europe, are planted on American rootstock. And so that is really important because it's resistant to phylloxera. So the United States helped save the European wine industry in the 1860s and 1870s, and they continue to today. Now, for a long time, United States wine really didn't have a great reputation, thought of it as inexpensive. And then they had what's called the Judgment of Paris. So a wine writer and a wine critic brought some bottles of wine from the United States over to France, and they had this blind tasting. And some of the bottles of California wine came out as some of the best wines in the entire world. Now, fast forward to today, we're one of the most important wine consuming nations in the whole world, right here in the United States. And we make some of the best wines on the planet. In recognition of the 250th anniversary, we're going to go all the way back to the founding fathers. Beer was very important. Probably even the signing of the Declaration of Independence, they probably cheersed with some beer. But this is the thing, beer has been around far longer than the United States. It's been around since antiquity. But there's been a lot of changes to beer, and some of them are absolutely because of the United States. Now, the U.S. being a nation of immigrants, we had immigrants from Germany and England, and when they brought with them their thirst for beer. And you had this huge country with so many resources to grow grains and to have hops and all those other things to make great beer. But one of the things that they really pioneered was the lager. And so the great American lager, or even delicious ales and the craft beer. But this is the thing, beer's been around for a long time, it's delicious. It's been a part of the American culture since the beginning. Even during Prohibition, a lot of these breweries, they went back and they were making other kind of things because beer was super important to the culture of the United States. And so as beer progressed, the technology and refrigeration and all those things really helped advance. But really one of the things that the United States is known for the great American lager. Even in the country, Yuengling was the oldest brewery in the United States. They've been making beer for a very long time. So we have a great beer culture, and it's very important. And the thing is we had this craft beer movement, and so the styles of beer all over the world have really been influenced by this great craft beer movement that we have right here in the United States. And so we make some of the best beer in the world because we have people from all over the world. And so in celebration of the 250th anniversary, I enjoy you to cheers with a beer. Whiskey and distilled spirits have been around far longer than the United States has been a country, but we're going to talk about when it started as a country. I bet you didn't know that George Washington was one of the largest distillers in America at the time. I think he produced like, I don't know, 11,000 gallons of whiskey a year. And so whiskey has been around for a long time. Everybody consumed it just like beer and wine. It became very important. And even after the founding, actually one of the first political crises wasn't about tea, it was about whiskey. And so they had the Whiskey Rebellion. And so you had all these farmers who thought, whiskey was really important. They were using it for trade. They worried about taxes. And George Washington himself squashed the Whiskey Rebellion. And so we created this environment and this culture of whiskey production in the United States. So we're gonna fast forward because we have all these German and Irish and Scottish and English immigrants, and they brought with them some of the great things about distilling. But we have corn and barley and all these things, but we have created a product in the United States called bourbon. Now, a lot of people think that bourbon can only come from Kentucky. That's not true. Bourbon can be produced anywhere in the United States. Bourbon is a unique product of America. It can be produced anywhere, but it just has to follow the recipe. Now, bourbon is now recognized all over the world as a premium product, and a lot of distilleries, they really struggled during Prohibition. So just like the wineries and breweries, they had to figure out ways to make medicinal products and other things to make it through. But the ones that made it through, the culture is still there, and we've made it 250 years, and we still have some of the best product and the best whiskeys in the whole world. Thank you for joining Acquistapaces in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the United States and our little bit of talk about wine, spirits, and beer and the history. Now, if you want to learn more, feel free to come on at Acquistapaces and we'll show you what we got.